Last-minute shakeup at 5:30 a.m., laundry situation not good. And when your focus is on helping your clients, it's easy to forget about yourself. But NASM knows trainers.
Morning ride is okay.
And staying in front of the day isn't always as simple as 1, 2, 3. So when the unexpected has you pressing pause,
what's the latest on creatine?
I'm going to get back to you on that.
let NASM1 help you press play. Visit NASM.org to sign up for a membership today.
You're listening to the NASM-CPT Podcast with Richey, winner of the ShareCare Emmy Award for Social Storytelling and the official podcast of the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Hey y'all, and welcome to the NASM-CPT Podcast. My name is Richey, and today we're going to talk about money. Let's talk about money, y'all. I think this is a very important conversation to have, and the fact that we haven't talked about it on this podcast before don't make any sense. So let's get into it. And I may have mentioned this on the podcast at one point a few weeks ago, months ago at this point, I had a trainer who recently just told me that he needed to have a new business because he had been working so much, he couldn't keep doing it. He's got a kid now. He works 40 hours a week as a personal trainer, and it's too much, and he can't keep working that hard just to keep making $350,000 a year. And I was like, what? I'll do it. Listen, I know it seems like things are going well at the Richey household, but $350,000 a year? Well, I don't think we're at that point yet. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? What are you doing right? And what are you about to do where you're about to make money that this isn't money? So I think that we can now go back and let's start at what we would consider a more reasonable income. And when we talk about income, you kind of have to start with the end in mind. And when I say the end, I'm really talking about the end of year. How much do you want to make by the end of the year? What's your gross? Let's start with the gross. If you say, all right, well, I really want to net this much money, then that's a different conversation. You got to do the numbers different. So gross is the total amount. Net is how much you get to keep. So you get gross, let's say $60,000 a year. And I choose $60,000 a year because when I was in high school, my Aunt Lori asked me, she goes, Rick, how much do you want to make when you get out of college? And I said, I don't know. And she goes, well, how much do you think you want to make? And I said, $60,000. And she was a little bit shocked. She was like, well, that's a lot to get out of college. Definitely if you're just jumping into personal training, but that wasn't the goal back then. That became the experience, and then it turned into my life. And that's what I've been doing since 2002 as a personal trainer. So I've been at the game for a little while. So let's go into, let's say that's $60,000, just because it stuck out in my head when Aunt Lori goes, that's crazy talk. So let's talk crazy talk for Aunt Lori and what is way too little for some people, what is extravagant for others. But we'll just start with $60,000 a year. And you want to break down what that means for you. So you could be like, all right, well, $60,000 a year divided by 12 months, and that's $5,000 a month. So how much do I need to make? How many sessions do I need to do at this rate in order to make $5,000 a month? But I don't like to do monthly. I like to break it down weekly because there's sick days. You're going to take a vacation, hopefully. You might take 2 weeks of vacation. You are going to have pretty much a mandatory vacation between the days, that week between Christmas and New Year's Day. So there's already breaks that are given to you. In fact, there's probably for all of us that are doing this, have a low time. So it's a little shallow pool to play in the summer. And then as kids get back into school and everybody gets back into their daily kind of routine, their annual routine, they get busier. We get busier during that time. But let's just do this. Let's take $60,000 and don't even divide it by 11 months. It gives you 4 weeks off. Let's just say 52 months in a year. Let's say 60,000 divided by 48 weeks. I just say 52 months, 52 weeks in a year. Now we're going to say, we're going to take 4 weeks off for whatever that is, sick days, vacation, all of that. So 48 weeks, $68,000 divided by 48 weeks, that is $1,250. So we're going to look at that for right now. Now, don't forget that you're going to owe taxes. So you gross that much money, but you net, which you get to keep after the government takes their piece. And trust me, I do not mind paying taxes. I live in this country and I love this country and I want to pay my taxes. But I tell you what I don't want to do. I don't want to pay a cent more than what I owe. So I have a tax professional that works with me, but I don't take standard deductions. I itemize my deductions, and you guys can talk to a tax professional to see if that works for you. Now, if you make $60,000 a year living in a region like New York, you will be taxed $13,760. That means your net will be $46,240 per year, or $3,853 per month. Your average tax rate is 22.9 according to talent.com. So let's look at how much money you make per session and see if we can hit that $1,250 a week. So we take that $1,250 a week, and let's say when you work as a personal trainer, you make $20 per session. That is 62.5 hours that you'd have to work in a week to make $1,250. I'm going to say that's not reasonable. It's not a reasonable request. So in order to hit your ideal number, you either got to work a lot of hours at $20 per session, or we got to get to a gym or a place, or you're on your own where you can charge more than that. So let's up it. Let's say $30 per session. That's 42 hours a week of training. Not great, but not bad. So you're still making that, working an average about what most people work in a full-time job. But we take it up to $50 per session. That $1,250 goal, which gives us $60,000 a year over a 48-week period, would be 25 sessions per week. And for me, now we're talking. Working 25 hours a week, making my financial goals, that already sounds yummy, delicious. What if you make $75 per session? That'd be 17 sessions per week. You should be working more than that. If all you're doing is working 17 hours and you're like, I'm living the good life. I just hang out and I go to my jujitsu classes for the rest of the day, and I go surfing, and cool. But in my opinion, you'd probably be working a little bit more while you're young, especially because we're going to save up for retirement. And in a moment, we're going to get to that retirement conversation. But 17 sessions a week to hit your financial goal, if you make $75 an hour, holla. $100 per session. It's going to take you 13 sessions to get to that $1,250. $125 per session. It's 10 sessions to get to $1,250 per session. So how much does the trainer charge per session to gross that $350,000 per year working 40 hours a week? Well, I ran the numbers on this to find out how much Captain Money Pants was making over here. So $350,000 a year at 48 weeks. And he does 40 sessions. That is 1,920 sessions per year. 350 divided by 1,920 sessions per year is an average of about $182 a session to gross $350,000 a year. Good on you. Good on you. I listen, that's like New York City prices, right? And there are some people I know that charge a lot more than $180 per session. And there are people outside of New York City that can charge money like that too. But there are not many places outside of New York City where you're going to make that type of ching on training. And realize still that burnout is possible, and burnout oftentimes doesn't matter how many sessions, how much money you make per session. If you're crushing it per session, you start to burn out, you burn out. And I left training to manage. Now I manage gyms, and they're like, hey, you're a good trainer. You'll be a good manager. It just so happened that was true with me, but that is actually terrible logic. Just because you're good at training doesn't mean that you will be a good manager. They're two totally different things. They're totally different skill sets. You just happen to be managing the people that do what you're good at. Doesn't mean you're good at managing. Doesn't mean you're good at working with those people. I was, but it's just not the right leap. But I went back to training. And if you want to know why, I went back to training because I made more money as a trainer than I made as a manager. Now, it's nice to be like, hey, thanks for this check. I know exactly how much I'm going to get every single month, every single week. Taxes are already done for me. It makes my life a lot easier in some ways, except for if I just work harder to build my business instead of the company's business, then I get to keep more money. So I made more money. I worked fewer hours as a trainer versus managing a gym. I had more freedom as a trainer. I had less oversight as a trainer. I had the ability to change more lives as a trainer. And I filed a lot fewer reports as a trainer versus being a manager. So there are things to think about when it comes to making money. But I will say this, when you start to make money, you can start thinking about a couple of things that are very important. You can start thinking about paying off a debt. So if you have debt, if you have student loan debt, definitely if you have commercial debt, like credit card debt, you got to get that stuff paid off as soon as possible. You may be looking at buying a home. And I'm a big fan of training people and them giving me cash. I love that. And so I'll be like, oh, well, I may not put that on my tax report, but my income taxes. But if you're trying to buy a home, you can only buy a home based off of the amount of money you can prove that you made. So you can't say, well, I made $45,000 a year, but I did another $15,000 in cash. And the bank will be like, well, you can't prove that. I don't know that you really did that. That's not in your income tax. And so we can't actually provide you a loan based on $45,000 a year and then just taking your word that you made 15 grand higher than that. So you're going to want to start maybe buying a home. So listen, you get to that point, be like, hey, I'm going to pay taxes on this money. I understand it, but it's going to allow me to be able to put money down and buy a home. You want to save money for retirement. You want to become financially independent as personal trainers. Needs to be done on two fronts. You can't just do the making of money. You have to do the saving of money. And in the book called The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley, he talks about the importance of playing offense, which is how much money you're making, and playing defense, which is how much money are you actually saving. All right. I'm going to do a live read right now just to let you know about some of the things that we offer at NASM. So this episode of the NASM-CPT Podcast is brought to you by NASM One, the membership for trainers and coaches. Members enjoy unlimited access to hundreds of career resources. Get the Edge app to schedule and program clients. Enjoy half off all certifications and specializations, access free CEUs, and more. All of this for just $35 a month. Go to nasm.org/membership to learn more about NASM One. All right, now let's get into talking about retirement. We're going to take some of that money that you've been making, big spender. You hit that money, the $60,000 a year that you were dreaming about, and even before this, right? So even if you're dreaming about making this money, I want you to just think about this. If you put away $5,000 into a brokerage account, and on average, a brokerage account will return an average of about 10%. So that's like the dividends get reallocated and they go right back in and they just build, right? So compounding our interest. Over 30 years, that $5,000, without adding anything to it throughout the years, will turn into $87,000, $87,247. So just a one-time deposit of $5,000. 30 years later, it's $87,000. Whoa. Well, first off, $5,000 lump sum sounds like a lot. All right, cool. Let's take that off the board. I want you to think about this. When it comes to your retirement, if you put away $100 a month, that's $1,200 a year, with an estimated 10% return, you'd have a total balance of $208,000 30 years down the road. $100 a month or $1,200 a year, you will have a return of $208,000. If you did $200 a month for 30 years, $200 a month every month for 30 years, when you're ready to retire, that would be $416,000 in your account to retire on. That's $200 a month. $300 a month for 30 years, $624,000 that you would have ended up with if you put in $300 a month. Let's go 400, and then we're going to go 500, and then we're going to play with our timelines there. So $400 a month for 30 years. You ready for this one? $400 a month, every month for 30 years, $832,000 at the end of 30 years to retire on. And this is crazy because if you start as a personal trainer and you're 25 years old, fast forward 30 years to 55 years old, you ain't even old yet. It ain't even time to retire. Keep making money, keep investing, and then do it for 40 years. I should have run that math. It's gonna be a lot though. If you ran the math and did it for 10 more years, it's gonna be good money. All right, here we go. This is what I think. If you can just aim for this number, $500 a month. Don't think about it. Just have it automatically taken out of your bank account and moved into an IRA. So an IRA is a tax deferred plan. So you're going to you make it's already taxed. So when you take that money out, so you're being taxed on the $1,200 a year. But when you get to, and the $400 a month for 30 years, when you get to the $832,000, you've already paid taxes on that. So that comes out tax-free. So there are different types of IRAs. There's a Roth IRA, and then there's a traditional IRA, which is, it's already taxed money, right? So this is, the IRA is pre-taxed. So you'll pay taxes on the way out, but you get to write it off. All right, so here we go. $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year in a tax-deferred IRA for 30 years. $500 a month, 30 years. The money that you'll have at the end of 30 years is $1,040,146 on average. This is an estimate. Now, of that money, you contributed $180,000. That's putting in $500 a month every month for 30 years. That adds up to $180,000. But you made over $820,000 extra dollars. If you just leave that in a brokerage account, the dividends get reinvested, you compound your interest. That is money, money, money. Dividends that you could live off of. If that $1 million, $1,040,146, your dividends that you could live off of and not work is $104,000 a year. If you have, this is why they say the rich people takes money to make money. You got to take money, you got to put it in there. You put in, you can make $1 million. Finally, over the course of 30 years, through compounding interest, you have $1 million in the bank. Then an average 10% return, you no longer reinvest it. You take it, 10% return on $1 million is $100,000. That is $100,000 that you didn't work for. You let the market do the work for you. That's a huge opportunity if you start saving right now. If you start saving right now. But it's kind of like this. It's, hey, Rick, I'm not 20 years old. I'm not 30 years old. Right? I'm older than that. Well, this is what we say about fitness. Is it too late? Is it too late for me to start investing? This is what we say about fitness. Should you have started investing when you were 20 years old? Yeah. Should you have started exercising when you were 20 years old? Yeah. But what happens if you're 30 and you haven't started investing or you haven't started exercising? Let's not exercise? No, nobody says that. We don't say that. But we also don't say that about investing. Just start now. Well, I'm 40 years old now. I haven't exercised. Is it too late for me? It's never too late. Just like investing, it's never too late. Go ahead and start now. So let's say that hey, Rick, I feel like this is a little bit too late for me. So we did this at $500 a month for 30 years is over $1 million. Now, if you only did it for 20 years, your total contribution would be $120,000 that you've put in over the course of 20 years. But your return on that would be $362,000, $493. Do you see how much money you actually grow if you could do it another 10 years, though? You only put in $60,000 extra dollars, and you would make another $600,000 if you just let that compound over another 10 years. All right, well, let's just say it's $500 a month for 10 years. Your total contribution, $500 a month for 12 months at $6,000 a year. You would put in $60,000 in 10 years. That'll be $101,000. So that's $40,000 you didn't have before. It's never too late. Start now. And the good news is that the more money you make and the more advancing you take as you grow in your career, and most millionaires next door are these kind of millionaires, the ones that worked and saved and invested as little as $500 a month, and 30 years later they do good defense, so they don't drive new cars. I think the total amount of millionaires in that book, The Millionaire Next Door, the total amount of millionaires that drive new cars is less than 10%. Most of them purchase used cars. They buy on sale. They're frugal. They pay attention to what they are spending. That's good defense. $60,000 a year is a fine income. I'd like to see you make more and build your offense. Majority of millionaires are entrepreneurs. At some point, maybe you go out on your own, you start your own training business, you get your own gym, you find other things. And I'm a huge fan of side hustles. Side hustles. I'm a personal trainer, but I also do this. I'm a personal trainer, but I also do graphic design on Fiverr to make a couple extra dollars. I'm a personal trainer, but with that extra time that I have, because I don't work 40 hours a week, what am I doing in my side hustle to make a little extra money? And you can make extra money, and the extra money, just put it away. Save it. Play good offense by making more money. Play good defense by saving that money and investing that money. And you can go and open an IRA through Fidelity, through Vanguard, through Schwab, through Acorns. I think there are all sorts of places that you can do this. But I suggest that you start now. Start saving. And this is where this money talk leads us. There's an opportunity for you to do really, really well in the fitness world. But it's all about how you plan for your retirement. The earlier you can start, the better off you will be. All right. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, share with your fitness friends and family, and leave us a comment. That really helps out and gets our numbers up, our algorithm, so people can find this a little bit easier. If you want to reach out to me, you can do so. Hit me up at dr.rickrichey on Instagram, or rick.richey@nasm.org. Y'all keep inspiring people to fitness. Thanks for listening. This has been the NASM CPT Podcast.